The mainstream media is lying to you once again. They are telling you that the Democrat candidate Harris is up by a significant amount, but I'm here to tell you that the former president is still the favorite to win the election. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. Today we're going to be looking at what my Battleground ratings are for every single state on this map. Make sure to go ahead and follow our Twitter. We are really getting close to about 1,000 followers on there. And make sure to go ahead into the description down below. If you want honest and transparent polling, me and Red Eagle Politics are sponsoring SoCal Strategies, a pollster that we both respect and trust, to conduct national and state polls for the 2024 cycle. We are actually going into the field for a national poll today, and thanks to you guys for your support, we've actually been able to conduct a national poll today. We are still not finished and we have lots more work to do, so any support would be greatly appreciated. Now, looking at the map here, for the safe Republican states, these are states that generally I wouldn't say the Democrats have any chance in whatsoever. Those include Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, all of Nebraska except that 2nd Congressional District, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, as well as West Virginia, including the state of Alaska, as well as South Carolina and Maine's 2nd Congressional District. These usually would have been considered the safe Republican states back in 2020, but we are also now adding Iowa, Ohio, Texas, and Florida into the no matter what happens category. Donald Trump essentially cannot lose these states. It is more than likely that the national environment is going to shift to the right of where it was last time, where Biden won the national popular vote by 4.5 percentage points in places where he didn't even actually get to win a state like Texas or Florida for that matter. And so clearly there is a little bit of a dynamic change here because now that the national environment is moving to the right, mainly because of Hispanic and African American voters, states like Texas and Florida, which with very large Hispanic populations, are really not going to be in play. In Florida, Republicans have gained on net about 1 million registered voters, and they're still up by 8 points in the early vote / mail-in for the primary elections, which are going to happen on Tuesday, and I am going to be streaming for those, so make sure to go ahead and check that out as well. We clearly see that the former president is doing very well in these states. The polling has Donald Trump up by almost 5 points on average in all these states. And these are states where he was either down in the averages or barely up, and he ended up winning them by a couple more points than what they had him up by. So it's pretty much safe to say that I don't think these states are going to go anywhere. You could honestly even add North Carolina into this column. I mean, Joe Biden had the perfect electorate in 2020 to flip this. African American turnout was relatively high. You had white voters flocking to Biden. And even with all of that, he still couldn't win North Carolina. And so if that's the case, I don't think Harris is going to be able to do it either. And North Carolina hasn't been trending to the left fast enough for it to vote to the left of the nation as a whole, or even vote Democrat at all this cycle. So in terms of all the states that I'd say no matter what happens, the former president cannot lose these. He has about 235 electoral college votes in this column. In terms of Harris, we obviously have the West Coast, that being California, Oregon, and Washington. Again, the margins are going to be closer, but I don't think she's necessarily going to be able to lose these. State of Hawaii is also in the safe column, as well as Illinois. I also think Vermont, Massachusetts, Maryland, DC, Rhode Island, Connecticut are in the safe column, as well as Delaware as well, and New Jersey in the forecast, as well as New York, including Maine's 1st Congressional District and Colorado. All of these states basically went for Biden by over 5 points last time, and you may see surprise shifts in like New York and New Jersey. They may get within single digits depending on how well Trump does, but I don't really think he's going to have a realistic shot at winning those. They're not non-zero chances. Well, they are non-zero chances of flipping, but they're probably not even higher than anything like a 15-20%. I'd say Trump probably has like a 15% chance of winning New York, which is a lot higher than his chances in 2020, which was basically like 1% or less than 1%. He's got a way higher chance in New York than he did last time. And I'd even say he's got like a 25% chance in New Jersey, to be honest. And last time, it was basically also close to a 0% chance. So he's doing far better in these states. as of right now, but I still believe Harris is going to be able to hold on to them somewhat comfortably. And so this is the battleground map. Now, we're going to be looking at the lean Republican states that could really, are definitely going to go to that candidate. I think Georgia is the leaning favorite to go to Trump. I mean, if you look at the state, the electorate's about 33% African American, and you need that high African American turnout for the Democrat to like narrowly eke it out. And there's a lot of rural counties in Georgia that are actually moving to the right. And so with a more than likely lower African American turnout than 2020, I just can't see Kamala Harris winning the state right now, or it even being in the toss-up column, to be honest with you. I also think Arizona is the same thing. I think she's probably going to lose Hispanics nationwide outright, and I think that this is definitely going to be a problem for her. I think that Trump probably wins the state by 2-3, but that's basically puts the state in the leaning favorite column for the former president. I also think Nevada would be in that column too, because Nevada has been trending to the right. You have Clark County with a lot of Hispanics, and Harris isn't really doing good with that group either. We actually have a video that I just posted that's actually blowing up on Twitter right now. It actually has about 52.3 thousand views on Twitter, and I also posted it earlier today. And we see that in the latest Rasmussen poll, if you plug in their demographics, Trump actually has a very easy victory in the Sun Belt, to the point where he actually doesn't even need to win the Rust Belt. And even New Mexico basically gets him over the finish line. Because even if you were to lose all the Rust Belt states, he'd actually be up by, 273 electoral votes. So this would be pretty interesting if this unfolds, because if this happens, the night possibly would be over pretty quickly, especially +4 Pennsylvania would definitely be a pretty big deal. And Trump actually loses support with white voters from 2020 here. That's why you see like states like Iowa and Ohio and the Rust Belt kind of vote to the left of like the Sun Belt, because you have a lot more minority voters there. But either way, I digress. The whole point of showing that was Donald Trump has built a lot of strength with those voters, and I believe that more than likely they are going to be what gets him over the finish line in some of these southern states. I don't think he's going to hemorrhage that many white voters in these states. And a state like New Mexico, it's not really 100% guaranteed to go to Harris. I think it's in a leaning column in a battleground. That's my personal opinion. I think that right now Harris wins it by 6-7, but it's not necessarily a guarantee, especially with what I looked at in that poll from Rasmussen, who tend to be more accurate. Their crosstabs showed Trump winning Hispanics by like 6 nationwide, and New Mexico has an electorate with the most Hispanic voters out of the entire nation. And so if he's going to win those voters by 6 points nationwide when Biden won them by like 35 points, that's like a 41 point shift on net with that group. And that's why you see these huge swings in Texas, Florida, and why New Mexico could potentially go to Trump. But I'd say it's leaning Harris. Maine and New Hampshire are interesting because they were complete toss-ups with, Biden, but I think Harris is going to be able to kind of, appease that white suburban, woman type voter in those states. So I'd say she's the leaning favorite to win those right now. I think Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, these two states, I just can't see Harris winning these right now. Wisconsin especially, Donald Trump is probably going to gain quite a bit in the driftless area, and I don't know how well she'd do in the wild counties. Maybe Trump loses ground in Ozaukee, but it's a big possibility that the state, or at least that county, even trends to the left but doesn't move because Trump just does so much better in the popular vote. So it really depends on what happens there. But again, I don't really see that state, going to Harris, and neither Pennsylvania, especially with Trump improving with African Americans. And he actually already improved in Philadelphia even before this. So I can't really see that being, a place where he loses either, especially, Biden, this grand Joe facade. I mean, he had that appeal in the the eastern part of the state, but he doesn't have that anymore. And so, now that he's even off the ticket, Harris is really not going to have that now. And so really this battleground map essentially is here. In terms of all the states that I have, I mean, technically Virginia would have to go in this leaning column too, because I do have it as like an 8 or 9 point victory right now. So I'd say she's like the leaning favorite to win it. But the true like toss-ups that could really go either way, to be honest with you, are Minnesota, Michigan, and Nebraska as of right now. Those are like the main ones. Michigan and Minnesota are kind of hard to predict because, You don't know what's going to happen with Michigan. You know, the rules are trending to the right, but some suburban areas are moving left. So it's a little bit of a harder state to kind of say, okay, Trump's definitely going to be favored to win it. Nebraska's second. It was redrawn recently to be more Republican favorable, and we don't know how much that's going to shift the electorate. We don't know if the 2020 result was a one-off. Like, we honestly don't know. And Minnesota, there's a big question about it because, yes, it is a 5-point win in my forecast for Harris, but that's assuming that she gets good turnout in the Hennepin County area. If, you know, these Israel Hamas type voters are very dissatisfied with her, which are mostly not Muslims, by the way. You know, everybody online has a big misconception about this. This is not about the Muslim voters, which I mean it is. You know, obviously they're defecting from the Democrats, but there's a lot more white liberal voters that are pissed off about this, you know, conflict than even so are Muslims, because or Arab voters, because they make up more of a population in any state regardless. There's a lot more disaffected white liberals over this issue than you think, and that could really sway the margin in Minnesota, and especially with third-party turnout. Honestly, with third-party turnout, you should really be putting New Mexico and Virginia in the, you know, toss-up category, to be honest. But just to be fair to Harris, I'd say she's the leaning favorite, you know, to win right now. But as for like basically a toss-up map, I'd say this is the most consensual map as of right now. This is the most, you know, basically the consensus map should be this. Trump is favored to win the election with at least 297. Minnesota, Michigan, Nebraska second are kind of up in the air right now. Depends on what happens with turnout and third parties as well with demographic changes. And so, guys, if you guys did enjoy this, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.